This was a quote from our vice president at the time, Calvin Coolidge. So, racism from the top down, right? Biological laws tell us that certain divergent people will not mix or blend.
I didn't know divergent was a real word other than that book.
Divergent is a real word. In 1916, they wrote this book, The Passing of the Great Race. Here's mongrel Virginians. What happens when white, Indian, and Negro blood intermingles? Right? So they're writing all these books about racial purity in 1900s, early 1900s. They talked about higher racial types and lower racial types, and how the mixing would lead to racial suicide. This is a famous case in the 1950s, Loving versus Virginia. They were a black woman, white man, got married, and they lived in Virginia where it was against the law for black and white people to be married to each other. People say, well, why didn't they just move? Well,
that's exactly what I was going to just say.
Because he had property there. It was passed down through his family, a large amount of property. You don't just abandon your family land, right? And so they would be subject to raids on their home. Cops would come in the middle of the night. They have children. They've been married for years. Have a family. Cops would come into their home in the middle of the night and arrest them because they were in bed together. Not having sex, just living as man and wife in their home and on their property. And the Supreme Court of Virginia upheld the decision. It went all the way up to the Supreme Court of Virginia, and they said, yep, absolutely, it's against the law, and you need to be punished. So you'll be in jail. They took it to the Supreme Court of the United States, and Robert Kennedy was actually involved in their defense, and it was overturned when it got to the Supreme Court. It's one of the, it was cited a lot. That's why I thought maybe you've heard of it. Just it was cited a lot during a lot of the marriage equality stuff. They brought up Loving versus Virginia a lot. And
I'm confused why they used all the colors of people and then referenced them by Malay.
Yeah, that's what the colors of people were called. So white, black, yellow, Malay, and red. So red is Indian, yellow is Asian, black, white. Malay is like the Polynesian Islands type of, that.
I was gonna say, is that super ignorant of me if I've never heard of the word Malay?
No, I had to Google it. It's like, it says it's Malaysia, Brunei, Indonesia, Singapore, that whole
Islander
thing.
people?
Yeah.
I was saying, because I was like.
And so what he said is that God put us all on these different parts of the planet. If it weren't for stupid people inventing technology that allowed us to take boats across oceans, we'd still be separate as races and as God intended us. So
They should learn the origin of love. Tell that story.
right, exactly.
That's what happened.
Well, what the really, I guess, sad story about it is the reason that they really needed to fight for it was if their marriage was invalid, then his children couldn't inherit his property. And so they couldn't inherit any of his estate. She wasn't his wife. They were illegitimate children. So they got it overturned, and then 2 or 3 years after the decision from the Supreme Court, he was killed in a drunk driving accident. And tragic. But thank God his family was able to inherit. Yeah, so crazy.
That is crazy.
The Tuskegee syphilis study. I don't know if I'm going to talk about this while you guys are interpreting. Let me go back to this. We'll go back.
Did you notice your numbers are off on that?
We'll go back to it.
Okay.
They didn't want other people coming into America. Sounds similar, right? Especially people who were from brown countries. If you were white, come on over. But they even Italians, Jews were considered to be brown. Not
Italians?
Yeah.
I tell you what, I'm Italian and I'm a failed person.
I'm Italian too.
Yeah. They had a disproportional high rate of mental illness, crime, and social dependency. damn immigrants.
Damn immigrants.
Um,
Coming over here with nothing and then
now Calvin Coolidge was our president, and he said, "America must remain American."
What is that exactly?
Right, but you can hear this coming out of politicians' mouths today. In fact,
Let's make America great again.
let's make America great again. They had legalized sterilization, so this was part of that negative eugenics. We'd start sterilizing people. This was from our Surgeon General. The sterilization of one defective adult could save future generations thousands of dollars. So.
I mean, not to be a dick, but like, it's still, he's got a point. I mean, it sucks.
Sure,
You shouldn't
I'm
kill
not saying
people.
it's not true.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying it's not true. They had mandatory sterilization laws. By 1917, 15 states had sterilization laws. During this time, let's see, where's it? Damn it. Like, there's a slide somewhere. Where 60,000 people were sterilized during this time.
Ooh.
Alright, I'll find it at some point. It'll pop up at some point. This is a story of Carrie Buck. She was third generation of imbeciles. She was called feeble-minded.
Oh, see, that's what I did.
Yeah. And her mother was, the reason that she was unfit was she had a record of immorality. She was engaged in prostitution. She was guilty of untruthfulness. And she had syphilis.
One of these things is not like the other.
Right. So it's like, you're immoral and untruthful, and you have
And
syphilis. Yeah.
Probably, that's what I'm saying. Probably from the prostitution. I feel like you just wrap that all
Syphilis makes you crazy though later on.
It does,
doesn't it?
yeah.
So I mean, like later on, that's gonna be a thing.
Yeah, but they sterilized her daughter based on
That's not her fault.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a pretty name.
17-year-old girl sterilized. Yeah. Here she is.
Wait, was it her? Wait, what?
Yeah, Carrie Buck, 17 years old. Sterilized.
But I thought it said the woman's name was Vivian was sterilized.
That was her mother.
Oh, okay.
Daughter Vivian. Emma's, I guess, other daughter Vivian. Not quite normal. This is a sign that I like to show just because it looks like a lot of that Nazi propaganda stuff that you see. But here's Uncle Sam. DDD. Right? Some people are born to be a burden on the rest, and these are lights. So they would like blink every 16 seconds to show you, so that every 16 seconds a person is born in the United States. This light flashes every 7.5 minutes, because every 7.5 minutes a high-grade person is born to the United States who will have the ability to do creative work and be fit for leadership. How Hitler. Okay. Let me get to Margaret Sanger. Here she is. So, do you guys know who Margaret Sanger is?
No.
She's the founder of Planned Parenthood.
No.
Yeah, she came up with birth control.
That's the reason I get free birth control.
Right.
Thanks, Margaret Sanger.
Amazing things happened because of Margaret Sanger and birth control. Really, it was a change in feminism, like female people. Sounds weird.
Females? Females?
Were able to have more independence because they could have fewer babies. They could go off and have an education. They could go off and have a job. They could have a life, and not just like have a baby every time they had sex. Yeah, exactly. But the reason behind Margaret Sanger and birth control was that she wanted to make those people have less babies.
You suck, Margaret.
Yeah. The unbalance between the birth rate of the unfit and the fit is admittedly the greatest present menace to civilization. The most urgent problem today is how to limit and discourage the over-fertility of the mentally and physically defective.
I have so many mixed emotions.
So
in her.
all these
Yeah,
poor
right?
people had
That's
a
like
ton
I
of
feel.
babies. They saw them, she literally calls them cockroaches in another quote.
Oh, well now I just
So,
feel bad.
it's
Now
like,
maybe.
she wanted to make sure the cockroaches had free birth control, so that they would stop. Because the rich people, the good people, they only had like 1 or 2 kids. But the bad people, they had tons of kids. And so America was in danger of like being overrun.
10 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
If you can't afford cable, what else you gonna do?
Right. It's still true, right? Right.